Come to order if we could, please. We're fortunate this evening to have Pastor Ross Halbersama to deliver our invocation. Thank you, sir.
Will you stand for the invocation, please? Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator of the universe, the sustainer of human life and all life, we acknowledge your goodness and your provision to us. Thank you for the privilege we have of living in this community. There is a great diversity here, and so tonight, as minds are spoken, as decisions are made, may you give guidance so that we will live in community with one another and for one another. I ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Lofton, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Remain standing and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. If I could have just a moment. Supervisor Vice Chairman Fisher is in Richmond this evening representing our community in the governor's box for his State of the Commonwealth address, and we thank him for that, but that's the reason he's not with us this evening. So he's gone the extra yard for us. Organization of the Board of Supervisors for 2017. Item A is election of a vice chairman. How would the board like to handle this?
Mr. Chairman, I would offer that we nominate Supervisor Gene Fisher for vice chair. He has served well in that role, and since he's not here to say no, I would nominate
Very
him.
good. That's what you get for not coming.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and a second, are there further nominations?
Move nominations be closed.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, aye.
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 Supervisor Fisher will be elected as vice chairman. Thank you. Adoption of the rules of procedure. I don't think there are any changes proposed. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt the rules of procedure as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt, is there a second?
Second.
A second, is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Rules of procedure adopted as presented. Selection of a parliamentarian.
Rod, am I correct?
Linda?
Yes.
I was speaking with Supervisor.
I make a motion that we,
Point Rod.
have the county administrator serve in that role as parliamentarian.
Motion to appoint the county administrator as parliamentarian. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none. Vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, Ms. Garden.
Yes, sir.
Selection of time and place for the regular meetings. Do we want to read those off, or are we all familiar with them?
Mr. Chairman, I would move, would move that we approve the time and meeting place as was posted in our minutes.
And the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Call your attention then to the chairman's committee appointments. There was one last-minute change. I apologize for that. The chairman's challenged keyboarding. I think the one in front of you is correct, and we just ask for you all to confirm your consensus with that, if you would.
I'm good.
So,
Motion?
so move.
Second.
Second. Discussion, anyone? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Then we'll adopt those, and I appreciate that. We'll ask your indulgence to go back to the election of vice chair. We nominated and closed nominations and elected Gene Fisher as vice chair, but I'd like to do a roll call if we could. Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries, and I appreciate your indulgence. So we'll go to the adoption of the agenda, Ms. Garten.
Yes, I would like to add an item to the agenda, please. We neglected to add the approval of the public hearing regarding the reassessment and the tax rate that you all agreed to by consensus at a budget work session. So if we could add that under section county officials, it would be item 3.
Okay,
And it would be letter P, and I would suggest you go ahead and put it on the consent agenda. It would be authorization to advertise a public hearing for February 22nd on the proposed real estate property tax increase due to the reassessment.
all right. Chair would entertain a motion to that effect.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. So now, consent agenda. Ms. Garden?
Yes, sir. Consent agenda items are F, G, O, and the P that you just added.
Would the board like to handle?
Move for approval of consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is F, G, O, and P. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Thank you. So this is the portion of the meeting where we set aside time for citizen comment on any agenda item that is not subject to a public hearing. Did anyone sign up? No one? Thank you, sir. Board of Supervisors comments, are there any?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Ewing?
I would just like to say it's good being back on the board, and I appreciate your all's vote of confidence in me. Look forward to working with the board, and we've got some issues coming up that I know is going to take a lot of attention, and hopefully we can get them worked out to the best interest of the citizens.
Thank you very much, sir. We're very pleased to have you back.
Thank you.
Other comments, anyone? All right. The minutes under tab B of our regular meeting, November 9th, 2016. These are here primarily because Supervisor Ewing had not seen them.
A motion for approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no.
Abstain.
Abstain? All right, that brings us to committee appointments. Lord Fairfax Community College Board. Think we're still looking.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have someone for you at the next meeting
Excellent.
for consideration.
Thank you, sir. Historic Resources Advisory Board, member at large. I don't think that we managed to contact Mr. Oldham, and that's my fault. But we can let that one go until next time. They're not meeting this month anyway, I don't believe. Planning Commission, Charles E. Triplett, Gainsborough.
Mr. Chairman, I talked with Mr. Triplett, and he would consider serving again, so I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Triplett to the Planning Commission.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Charles E. Triplett is reappointed as Gainsborough representative on the Planning Commission. Old Dominion ASAP. Are we still willing to serve?
Yes, sir.
Garden? Okay, so Ms. Garden has been our representative there and is willing to continue to serve. How would the board like to handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I move to, nominate County Administrator Brenda Garden to serve on that board.
Thanks, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second, is there any discussion?
Just to clarify, it's actually 2 boards.
Yes,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So it's a dual appointment.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We thank you. Appreciate your willingness to serve. That will bring us to requests from the Commissioner for refunds, Ms. Garden?
Yes, sir, you have 4. 5, excuse me. Rod's holding up his hand that there's 5. The first one is to Aqua Virginia Incorporated in the amount of $3,028.91 for an adjustment of real estate taxes in 2016, resulting from an audit by the State Corporation Commission, which changed the values. And so you would need to approve that refund and make the supplemental appropriation.
How would the board handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the refund and the corresponding supplemental appropriation in the amount of $3,028.91.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
The second one is to refund Brian Umps Towing and Repair LLC the amount of $4,235.45 for adjustment of personal property taxes in 2016, resulting from taxes that were paid on vehicles that had been sold.
The board like to handle the request?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, of the refund and appropriation.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
The third one is to Capital Meats Incorporated in the amount of $8,274.07 for adjustment of personal property taxes and license fees from 2013 to 2016, resulting from taxes paid on vehicles that had been sold or moved out of Frederick County. Again, approve the refund and the supplemental appropriation.
Would the board like to handle this one?
I make a motion. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Lawler.
Okay, I move for approval of the refund and the supplemental appropriation.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
The next one is a refund and supplemental appropriation in the amount of $2,674.20 to Rutherford LLC for adjustment of real estate taxes in 2016, resulting from an appeal and new information presented by the taxpayer during the assessor's hearings.
How would the board like to handle this request?
Make a motion for approval of the refund and also the corresponding supplemental appropriation.
It's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
And the last one is a refund and a corresponding supplemental appropriation for $36,738.77 to Valley Proteins Incorporated, resulting from the adjustment of personal property taxes and license fees from 2013 to 2016 because vehicles were sold or housed in another state and incorrectly reported to Frederick County.
Heard the request. How would the board like to handle this one?
Move for approval of the refund and supplemental appropriation, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. I think that brings us to the end of the list.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Finance Committee report. Supervisor Slaughter.
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee met on December 21st, and the following items were considered. The sheriff, item number 1, the sheriff requested a general fund supplemental appropriation, the amount of $8,536.58. This amount represents reimbursement from the Treasury Department. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Do we want to pick up the consents?
Yes, sir. We should pick up the consents, which were items number 6 and 9 under consent agenda. I would make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Motion is second to approve items 6 and 9 under consent. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, the sheriff requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $5,000, which represented the Burn Justice Assistance Grant and is for the heroin antidote. No local funds required, and the committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Item number 3, the sheriff requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $17,999. This amount represented the 21st Century Policing Grant, which was primarily used for outreach for the elderly. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Okay, and item number 4 on the agenda, the sheriff requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $3,617. This amount represents unbudgeted proceeds from the sheriff's sale, which they wish to use for career development, and the committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Okay, item number 5, the fire and rescue chief requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $9,662. The amount represented unbudgeted aid to localities funds received, no local funds required. The committee recommended denial at this time because it was to go back to the Public Safety Committee first and then come back to the Finance Committee with a recommendation. So at this time, the committee recommended denial, and I would so move. And I'm
Didn't
not-
we just refer it back?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm
no
not sure
action
we need
required.
action on that.
Okay, very well. All right, well, that will take us to item number 7. The fire and rescue chief requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $16,297 for expenditures and $32,594 for revenue. This amount represents the unbudgeted portion of a local emergency management performance grant. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there any discussion? None. Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Okay, and then the last item requiring action was the finance director requested a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $29,263.76, and this represented the Virginia Juvenile Community Corrections funds to be returned to the state. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. All right. So that brings us to a public hearing, consideration adoption of amended articles of incorporation for the Frederick County Sanitation Authority. Is there anyone presenting this one?
Lawrence.
Eric
Okay.
is here.
Mr. Lawrence is here.
Good evening.
Sir, evening.
What you have before you is a request from the Sanitation Authority Board of Directors asking for a revision to their Articles of Incorporation pertaining to two things. We consider them minor revisions because it's really membership authorization. The current board Articles of Incorporation identify by name and address the membership. So we have 5 board members, which you all appoint. Every year, a term expires, so every spring, you appoint or reappoint somebody. And technically, the Articles of Incorporation are supposed to capture that individual, and we would have to constantly update the names and hold public hearings every spring to appoint new people. So one request is that we revise the articles and simply identify the membership as Board Member 1, Board Member 2, Board Member 3. They still have their 4-year terms, and they're alternating, so every year you have a different individual that gets appointed. And through coordination with county administration, we'll make sure we have the same membership through our records, but you don't have to go through the public hearing process to appoint new members. So that's one of the revisions. The other revision pertains to compensation. The Sanitation Authority was created by the Board of Supervisors in 1967, and when they did that, they established that the members of the Sanitation Authority would be compensated as so determined by the Board of Supervisors. So what that means is, for the better part of 20 years, the membership gets $200 a month, and that's it. And if they ever wanted an increase, they would have to come back to you. As we were looking at it at the Sanitation Authority, we wanted to point out that we are a not-for-profit organization. We don't receive any county taxpayer contributions. We have a nearly $30 million budget, which is paid for by the users of the water and sewer service area. So the Sanitation Authority board members felt if they're responsible for nearly a $30 million budget, shouldn't they determine if they're worth $300 a month instead of $200 a month without asking permission? I can tell you that before they even asked me to bring that to you, they asked me to look at the authorities throughout the state. So we did a survey about 6 months ago of the water and sewer authorities in Virginia of comparable size, and what we found is $300 to $400 a month is typically what an authority of our size would compensate itself for. I can tell you that the board said they don't want to go that high, but I suspect they'll want to go from $200 to $300. But what we're asking for tonight is simply a revision to the Articles of Incorporation, which empowers the Board of Directors at the Sanitation Authority to determine their own compensation. So those are the two changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding this request, and we have requested a public hearing, so at the conclusion of the public hearing, we would appreciate your support and approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Mr. Lawrence? Yes, sir. Supervisor Dunn.
I had notes here
Okay.
prior to this, so this is not coming off the top of my head. And the note was, how were you compensated before? You've answered the question. You are a public utility, correct?
Yes. We're a political subdivision of Frederick County and of the state of Virginia.
And you and I, I respect you. So my question is, if your board went hog wild and decided they were going to compensate themselves for, $1 million per meeting, what's the recourse? In a private entity, if you own stock, you can say, I can sell the stock. But there's no other way to get the services you provide. So what's the cap to balance between no pay raise from the 30 years ago, which I respect, to somebody that's going hog wild?
The best way to look at it is we are chartered by this Board of Supervisors, and the Articles of Incorporation that we're talking about tonight empower us. So if we're doing if our board members decide to compensate themselves
Egregiously?
outrageously, as you would say, your recourse is to say, hey, don't do that. But the power is you could hold a public hearing 30 days later, change the Articles of Incorporation, and take that authority from them. Just as we're asking tonight for the rights to determine our own compensation, you could hold a public hearing because you control the Articles of Incorporation. So you could hold a public hearing and revoke that power.
So therefore,
So you control it.
okay, so therefore, just to be certain here, the taxpayer and the citizens of Frederick County do have a recourse if something really outrageous occurred, in which they could come to us and say, this is just unacceptable. The board could then turn around and say to you, this is unacceptable, and revise your Articles of Incorporation?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's just as we're asking you to do tonight to empower us. You can hold the same public hearing and depower us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Supervisor Lofton.
Mr. Lawrence, I see it's noted here that the pay increase is, or the compensation is $300 per month and not per meeting.
Correct.
How many meetings do you have per month?
Well, we have one official board meeting per month, and we have a number of committees. So typically, most of the board members have at least 2 to 3 meetings a month.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
that's in addition to other responsibilities that show up throughout the year.
Okay.
But the compensation is per month, not meeting.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
How often do you anticipate, the last time when the fee was set for the 200, how long ago was that? Approximately.
I think it was 20 years ago.
All
It
right.
was a number of years ago.
Okay. Do you have an anticipation of how long or how often you would increase that fee, i.e.,
Yeah.
if you have inflation, which to me would be justifiable, or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I don't have a response because
Okay.
we hadn't talked about increasing it beyond getting it to $300 and leave it at there.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Lawrence, anyone? Yes, sir.
One more, I'm sorry. The change in compensation, if we allow the authority to set their own compensation, when does this take place, and how would the public know about that?
Probably the best way to do it is we would tie it, every year we adopt a budget similar to you all. We hold a public hearing if we're modifying the rate structure. So logically, this spring, whether we modify the rate structure or not, we could hold a hearing and talk about the compensation. It's not required to hold a hearing for the compensation, but if we're already holding a hearing, we could tie it all together.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Lawrence?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Ewing.
Mr. Lawrence, personally, I'd feel more comfortable with it if you did have a public hearing tied to the budget and have the public hearing to announce that you're doing it so that the users are aware of it.
Yes.
I don't know that we want to write it in or not, but
That's why this board
I
does
would
it.
feel more comfortable.
Okay.
If it's done through a public hearing.
Yeah, what I found is the sanitation authority, we hold public hearings for when we establish rates, but we're not required to hold public hearings for the budget. And what I found is the budget seems to be the same thing every year. But it's when we do the budget and the rates at the same time, so we can do a public hearing that captures ability for everyone to comment.
Any others?
All right.
My memory has been well over 20 years.
I didn't want to say that, but it's been a long
Yeah,
time.
it has been a long, long time. So, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to these proposed changes in the Sanitation Authority's bylaws? Anyone at all? Last call. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. How would the board like to handle the request?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the revisions to the Articles of Incorporation of the Frederick County Sanitation Authority as presented.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Is there any discussion?
Quick comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir?
The proposed increase represents an increase that is less than the cost of inflation over a 20-year time frame. So that's just something you need to know. So it's a reasonable request.
Further discussion, anyone? We ready to vote? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. The request is approved. That brings us to Planning Commission business, public hearing, ordinance amendment, the Frederick County Code, Chapter 144. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is an ordinance amendment to the subdivision ordinance to update the minimum right-of-way necessary to create a family division lot. Currently, the subdivision ordinance requires a 50-foot right-of-way. However, the Code of Virginia states that for family division lots, a 20-foot right-of-way is the maximum you can require. So this is just a very minor revision to bring the subdivision ordinance in line with the Code of Virginia. So it's just going to take the 50 down to a 20. The Planning Commission held a public hearing for this on December 7th, and they did recommend approval. So tonight, we're seeking a decision from the board on this subdivision ordinance text amendment.
Questions, Ms. Perkins? Yes, sir?
Do we have a choice?
No.
If we want to conform.
Thank you.
I didn't think so.
Further discussion, anyone?
Me.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning these proposed changes? Anyone at all? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. How would the board like to handle this request?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the amendment to decrease the right-of-way width requirement from 50 feet to 20 feet per the Code of Virginia.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there any discussion? Anyone? Seeing none. Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Ms. Perkins?
Again,
Ordinance
thank you.
amendment.
This is an amendment to the zoning ordinance as it pertains to the discontinuance of nonconforming uses. Currently, the zoning ordinance states that if a nonconforming use is discontinued for a period of time exceeding 1 year, it is deemed abandoned. However, the Code of Virginia states that that time period is 2 years. So this is a revision to bring our ordinance in line with the Code of Virginia, take it from 1 year to the 2 year. The Planning Commission again held a public hearing for this at their December 7th meeting. They did recommend approval. So tonight we're seeking a decision from the board on this proposed zoning ordinance text amendment. Thank you.
Questions,
Under the
Ms.
same
Perkins?
conditions. We don't have a choice.
Apparently not. Thank you.
Apparently not.
So public hearing, would anyone like to speak concerning these proposed changes to the zoning ordinance? Anyone at all? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. How would the board like to handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the change and approve an ordinance amending the Frederick County Code, Chapter 165 zoning, Article 9, nonconforming uses, structures, and signs.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
And a second, is there any discussion? Anyone? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Ms. Perkins?
This is an amendment to the zoning ordinance to remove motorcycle repair from the B2 permitted uses. Currently, motorcycle repair is a permitted use in the B2 and the B3 districts. So this proposed amendment would take it out of the B2 districts. It would leave it in the B3 district, but it would also move it to the M1 and by default the M2 district as permitted uses. So this use would really bring motorcycle repair more in line with automobile repair, which is also a permitted use in the B3, M1, and M2 districts. So I'd note that this wouldn't change uses that have a primary sales use. It is only uses that are a primary repair use. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on December 7th and recommended approval. So we are seeking a decision on this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Questions, Ms. Perkins? Anyone? Supervisor Lofton?
Do we know of any existing businesses that might be impacted by this?
No, sir. And anything that is currently existing would be vested.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Ms. Perkins? Anyone? Thank you, ma'am. So public hearing, would anyone like to speak concerning these proposed changes to the ordinance? Anyone? Anyone at all? All right, well, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. How would the board like to handle this request?
Make a motion for recommend approval of the amendment to remove motorcycle repair from B2 General Business District and include it in the M1 Light Industrial and in M2 Industrial General Districts.
Motion to approve is requested. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Ordinance amendment to Chapter 165, Ms. Perkins.
Thank you. This is an amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow commercial indoor recreation as a conditional use in the OM, which is the Office Manufacturing District, and the M1 Light Industrial District. Currently, this is a permitted use in the B2 and the B3 districts. Now, I would note that in addition to including this as a conditional use, we've also drafted some supplementary use regulations that pertain to parking regulations and pickup areas for the use. And I would also note that additional requirements could be tacked on through the conditional use permit process that pertain to the site. So again, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on December 7th, and they did recommend approval. So again, we're seeking a decision on this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Questions, Ms. Perkins? Anyone? Just like to comment that I was particularly pleased with the in-depth and comprehensive look that you gave this, as well as looking at some of the other similar zoning districts. It's very nice work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning these proposed changes? Anyone at all? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion. How would the board like to handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for an amendment to Chapter 165 of zoning to include an allowance for amusement and recreation services operated indoors to be permitted through a conditional use permit in the M1 Light Industrial District and the OM Manufacturing District.
And motion, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And second, is there any discussion? Anyone? Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye and the motion carries. We have one more.
Again, thank you. This is another amendment to the zoning ordinance. This pertains to modifications for the standards for a submittal of a minor site plan. The current threshold for a minor site plan is a revision that increases an existing structure area by 20% or more, or less, and does not exceed 5,000 square feet of disturbed area. So the change in front of you would just change that 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet to bring that more in line with what you would need for a land disturbance permit. So again, the Planning Commission held a public hearing at their December 7th meeting, did recommend approval. Again, we're seeking a decision from the board on this requested text amendment.
Questions, Ms. Perkins, anyone? Thank you, ma'am. It's a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning these proposed changes to the ordinance? Anyone? Anyone at all? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. How would the board like to handle this one?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to increase the disturbed area permissible to be considered a minor plan from 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet.
Motion to approve the request is presented. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Is there any discussion? Any? Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. That brings us to a rezoning application 12-16, Ms. Perkins.
Last one, I promise. This is a request to revise the proffers from rezoning number 03 of 2005 for North Stevenson Incorporated for 4 parcels of land that total a little over 59 acres. Now, the properties are located on the eastern side of Martinsburg Pike at the intersection of Route 11 and Stonebridge Boulevard. If I can direct you to the screen on your left, the subject properties are outlined in black. For reference, you have Martinsburg Pike and then Stonebridge Boulevard. Now, this minor proffer amendment seeks to amend a transportation proffer that previously dedicated right-of-way for the construction of a public roadway for the realignment of Redbud Road. Now, this proffer amendment seeks to make that dedication private, a private access easement, which would be called Ezra Lane, and it would also bring this rezoning into conformance with rezoning 4 of 16, which was approved back in June of 2016, which made a segment of that roadway private already. This is a graphic from that 2016 rezoning. Now, for reference, we have Martinsburg Pike, Stonebridge Boulevard. This is the piece that we were talking about for Ezra Lane to become private with this rezoning. The portion that was made private back over the summer is this area here. So just to recap, this is a minor proffer amendment, therefore no public hearing is necessary. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this amendment back at their December 7th meeting, and we are seeking decision from the board on this requested minor proffer amendment. Glad to answer any questions.
Questions, Ms. Perkins, anyone? Supervisor Lofton.
Yes, sir.
Would you go back to the map that you just had and kind of go over why this is not necessarily a public right-of-way now?
Back when this was rezoned in 2005, this was the relocation for the Redbud Road relocation. However, a number of years after that, the Greystone property was rezoned, and that public roadway relocation was moved to the Greystone property. So therefore, this public roadway proffer on this property isn't necessary anymore.
Could you kind of just draw that on there? I want to make sure people see it graphically. Something close.
Probably on, let's see, I can zoom in on this one. This one might be a little easier to understand. We have Martinsburg Pike here, 81 Redbud Road in this location. The 2005 rezoning for the North Stevenson property had that roadway kind of going this way. However, when Greystone came into play, now the roadway has been shifted further down Redbud. I might have it's going to go more in line with that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Anyone? Supervisor Dunn.
Is there any property owner that's affected by this? In other words, any property owner that's affected by this road that objects?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It's open.
Family owns all those. Other questions, anyone? All right. How would the board like to handle the request?
I make a motion to approve the rezoning application number 12-16 Snowden Bridge Station proffer amendment.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. All right. That was consent. So that brings us to board liaison reports. Are there any?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Dunn?
Mr. Chairman, the Parks and Rec Commission met last night to discuss a park at Frederick Heights, which is in Redbud. There are very few parks in the eastern part of the county, and this particular park is underutilized. Actually, it's not utilized. The commission is considering expanding that park to put in a multi-use bike path. It's approximately 10 acres. It will provide a park area for the eastern part of the county. As this area expands, it's going to need parks. So the cost for that will be approximately $197,000. It includes parking. And when we go through the budget process, I'd hope to have your support. Secondly, at that meeting, there was a presentation to a gentleman. So many projects in Frederick County are done by volunteers. People visiting Sharando Park and needing to go to the restroom can thank Eagle Scout Blake Sandy for easy access to the facilities. As part of an Eagle Scout project, he planned, funded, site prepared, and executed the project with a team of fellow volunteers. As one supervisor in Frederick County and a former Eagle Scout, let me say thank you for the hard work that he had done. That concludes my
Thanks, sir.
report.
All right. Any others? Board liaison reports? Anyone? All right. So that brings us to the portion of the meeting which we assume that some of you are interested in. It's the opportunity for citizen comment on any issue that you might like to bring before the board. If you'd come to the podium one at a time, give us your name, magisterial district. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Sorry. It's an open mic. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Susan Brinkmeyer, and I live in the Stonewall District in Snowden Bridge. And I'm speaking tonight in support of the proposed school construction projects, the 4th High School, the renovations and addition to Armel Elementary, and the 12th Elementary School. As a parent, as an educator, and as a taxpayer, I recognize the value of providing the best possible educational opportunities. Funds that we spend carefully and intentionally today will pay off in the years to come as today's students become tomorrow's leaders and become our skilled workforce. My children are all grown. They all graduated from Frederick County schools. Yet I continue to support a forward-thinking approach to education. I disagree with some people who might advocate for a good enough or an adequate education for our children. And I believe we have a moral obligation to use our resources and our knowledge wisely to create the best possible learning environment for our students. The profile of a graduate was developed by the Virginia Department of Education to ensure that schools are preparing students adequately for the workforce. And it includes the 5 C's: critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and citizenship. It's important that our future construction projects ensure that our school designs support this type of learning. I'm also proud to serve as the principal of Frederick County Middle School. And during this year of transition to our new school, I've seen firsthand the positive impact of these open collaboration spaces. Students use those spaces for project-based learning, for partner work, and teachers are able to plan for flexible grouping and workshop activities. Recently, I saw math and science teachers working together to teach a science lesson that also included math topics such as ratios and percentages. And it helps students to understand that math is something that affects them in real life. It's not just a subject they learn in school, that math has value. In English classes, students learned plot movement by aligning the parts of the story elements and the parts of the plot to the different elevations within our school. Collaboration spaces are also used for presentations and for celebrations. And these uses are consistent with the 5 Cs and would have been challenging, if not impossible, in our previous school setting. Frederick County leaders have had a long-standing tradition of supporting education of our children, and I recognize and appreciate and respect that. Each school in our division represents the educational research and the standards of its time. And I know that it's human nature to think that this is the way we've always done it and it's worked fine. But the reality is that as we continue to change and continue to move forward, what's worked in the past doesn't always keep us moving forward. With each new school, we need to embrace the current best practices, the cutting-edge technology, and the design features that help prepare our students. As a taxpayer, I also understand the financial realities regarding the proposed projects. And as supervisors, you have an awesome responsibility to be thorough, to be thoughtful, and to be wise stewards of our money. And I don't envy your job. I appreciate every bit of thought that you put into this. But I ask you to consider that we need these schools, and waiting is not a wise alternative for us. There used to be a commercial on TV that had a mechanic who said, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. And we all knew that paying later meant paying more money in the long run. Waiting for later will result in us spending much more money. It'll result in continued overcrowding in our schools, and it'll result in the loss of educational opportunities for our students. I believe it's important for our community to have a chance to talk about this topic, and I respectfully ask the board to move forward by opening this for public comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. You want to move that up? Thanks, sir.
Sure. Good evening, Chairman DeHaven, members of the board, and County Administrator Garton. I am John Nelson, principal of Shenandoah High School and a resident of the Opequon District. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the construction of the 4th high school and would like to present the following figures to you. 106 and 42. 106 equals the combined number of years that Mrs. Butler, Mr. Shire, and I have been educators in Frederick County. 42 equals the combined number of years that Mr. Shire, Mrs. Butler, and I have been principals of our respective schools. I believe that we know our students, our schools, and our communities as well as anybody. Other than the Winchester Medical Center, there are very few businesses or agencies that manage over 1,600 people in a single day. Our first concern involves the safety and well-being of our staff and students. There are 15 outside detached classrooms at Jameswood High School and Shenandoah High School. Significant safety concerns are associated with these exterior classrooms. For example, an intruder or terrorist threat as students are housed in the classrooms outside the safety of the main building. Security and safety of our students as they move to and from the main building and to the trailers and then back again. Severe weather is a concern for our students. Moving 180 to 200 students at any given day into the building in a timely manner is very problematic. Crowded conditions create more stresses for our students and teachers. Students don't have adequate time for restroom breaks. Number of student walkers has increased, creating more pedestrian issues. We currently have students walking on Route 522, 277, and Route 7. Evacuation drills take longer to conduct. A few minutes could be critical in a crisis situation. Nurses handle significantly more students than they did several years ago, and some have serious health concerns. Professional meetings are being conducted in maintenance closets. Classes are being taught in areas not designed as classrooms. In 1983, when I first began my career in Frederick County, I taught at Jameswood High School. At that time, there were 2 campuses. The folks at Amherst always thought the teachers at the Ridge campus had everything because everything was new. In 1993, Shenandoah High School was built, and the concern from the Jameswood teacher was, they have everything. Millbrook opened in 2003, and you guessed it, The cry from James Wood and Sharanda was, they have everything. Whiteboards replaced blackboards, DVDs instead of VHS players, LCD projectors instead of TVs, laptop replaced desktops, and that list goes on and on and on. But the fact is that 90% of they have everything doesn't even exist now. Kids learn differently, teachers teach differently, and consequently have different challenges. I respectfully request that the Board of Supervisors reconsider their support for the fourth high school. We don't need to build a high school on yesterday's standards or even today's standards. We need to build a high school on tomorrow's standards and standards for years to come. Our students need this to stay competitive in our global society. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Tom Chunta. I'm a resident of Frederick County, specifically residing in the Opequon District. I'm here today to discuss my concerns regarding the board's inaction to move forward with the construction of the fourth high school. I currently have a niece and nephew who attend Sharando High School and have 3 children that will attend Sharando, starting with my oldest daughter in 2 years. The time is now to take action on the fourth high school. I've spoken to my niece and nephew about current issues associated with overcrowding at our county high schools. Sharando in particular has multiple modular classrooms that are not conducive to provide our students with the best possible learning experience. Their concerns range from not being able to effectively regulate the temperature in the modular units to long lines in the restrooms, which causes them to miss instructional time. And lastly, their concern for safety as they exit the brick and mortar building for a trailer. From a risk management perspective, the threat of an active shooter is first and foremost my major concern. Times have changed. It seems you cannot go a week without some type of active shooter situation taking place in a mall, airport, or even a school. These modular units provide no viable options for cover for students or teachers. A threat would not need come through the office doors in order to inflict harm on our children, as they have direct access to hundreds of students without ever entering the building. From a cost perspective, we know that from history, construction costs are always going to continue to rise. The additional cost of busing students to other schools, leasing additional modular units, losing student instruction time are not options I would consider viable as a taxpayer. There's been significant work and expenditures already associated with the fourth high school, and a delay now would not be financially prudent. It seems weekly open to Winchester Star, there's some discussion about economic development. The county encourages economic development in order to attract commercial taxpayers as well as future residents through employment. Businesses choose to go locality based on location as well as employment base. One of the major considerations my family or any family would make when relocating is looking at the school division. If the schools are overcrowded and do not provide a productive learning environment, prospective job seekers may elect not to relocate to Frederick County, which in turn will create a void for those businesses with an inadequate workforce, forcing them to relocate. In August, I moved to a new subdivision within the same district that eventually have 88 single-family homes. According to Frederick County's statistics, this will equate to approximately 8 new high school students. In November, the board approved the rezoning application, which would equate to an additional 130 single-family homes, adding another prospective 13 students. With the additional 21 students at Sharando, while not taking into account the number of single-family homes that have been approved off of Warrior Drive. You cannot continue to approve housing within the county without taking into account the need for an additional school. While I'm sure you're all aware, I would like to reiterate that our real estate taxes are one of the lowest of any of our comparator jurisdictions. Local rates range from 59.5 cents in Warren to $1.14 in Loudoun. I acknowledge the low tax rate attacks residents from surrounding counties. However, it's time to quit kicking the proverbial can down the road. We say we want economic development, but the inaction of moving forward with the fourth high school shows that we're not willing to take the necessary measure to ensure our children have a safe and favorable learning environment, which will someday provide these prospective businesses with a competent workforce. In closing, I'm asking you, the Board of Supervisors, to take the necessary action to schedule a public comment session for the fourth high school immediately and subsequently take formal action to approve moving forward with construction of this high school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next. Anyone?
Good evening. My name's Brandy Hammond. I live in the Shawnee District. I'm a taxpayer, a parent of a daughter at Sharando High School and a daughter at Armel Elementary School. I'm also a substitute teacher. I'd like to speak to three things tonight. I'm also concerned about the funds not being approved or anything moving forward with the capital improvement plan and those top three priorities, as the others here have discussed tonight. Three things I want you to think about are space, safety, and quality teachers and education in our county. Obviously, space is needed to educate the current students. In my opinion, we're already behind schedule. My daughters and the other students I see need more space now. So, and I'm also worried about the future growth, but even if we had no future growth, we're already behind. We need the space now. My fifth grade daughter is in a class with close to 30 students, a small classroom, big fifth grade bodies. It's not the most conducive environment for educating our students. My high school daughter has a class out in the trailers at Sharando. I'm concerned for her safety every day when she goes through those unlocked doors in the back of the school to and from those trailers. Weather situations, intruder situations. I know we're all concerned about keeping our students safe while they're being educated. There's no argument there from anyone, I'm sure. Part of why I'm here tonight is I want to do all I can to ensure the safety of all the children in this county. Our current situation is very unsafe. Now, I will say, I know nothing's fail-proof, but at Armel Elementary, I truly feel my daughter is completely safe with the security buzz-in system, all exterior doors locked at all time. The high school doesn't have it, and as long as there are trailers in place, they can't have that sort of system. So please, please, take action to do what's best for the safety of our children. As far as quality education, obviously, I know several years ago I heard, someone with the school board say, ideally, we'd love to have classes of 20 students, but of course, funding, we're always really far away from that. But to even consider that, I think low class sizes are key. Attracting quality teachers here to join the outstanding teachers we already have and keeping those outstanding teachers here, we need to obviously offer competitive salaries. My fear is we're losing many teachers to other counties. Offer a good learning environment that attracts teachers and that will help the teachers stay here by having quality learning, enough space, enough and safety, and modern infrastructure in our schools. We're behind the times, and I know my time is up, but I strongly urge you, don't drop this matter. It's already delayed. Sadly, there's nothing that can be done for my current high school student because we're behind, but please think about the future children coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Mistretta, and I live in the Opequon District. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, and my daughter will be starting kindergarten at Armel Elementary this fall. I also have the privilege of serving the students in the community of Evendale Elementary as their principal. And I'm here today to speak as a mom and a Frederick County taxpayer. I'll also offer the perspective that my chosen profession gives me each day as a principal. In 2005, as a recent college graduate, my husband and I relocated to this area. We were drawn in by the beauty of the area and small town feel with the thriving community. After 1 year, we purchased our first home. However, in order to do so, we traveled over the Virginia line to Berkeley County, where the cost to purchase a home was more affordable. While the cost of living is certainly lower in Berkeley County, in 2015, my husband and I made the decision to move to Stevens City. In our minds, this decision was an investment, not a financial investment. Our cost of living significantly increased, but an investment in our children's future. We knew we wanted our children to attend Frederick County Public Schools and to be raised in this community. I have a perspective that not many parents have. An insider's view of the high-quality, rich learning experiences that Frederick County Public Schools provides. I see firsthand the dedication that our school system has toward the teaching and learning of all students, preparing them for a world that we haven't yet lived in. I also have the experience of teaching in schools that are over capacity and in need of repair. I began my teaching career at Cincinnati Road Elementary and was part of the staff that opened Greenwood Mill Elementary. While I genuinely believe that our students in those schools received an excellent education, I also know that there were other opportunities that could have been provided had the environment been optimized. As a principal, I believe that no matter the decision that is made regarding the renovations at Armel Elementary and the building of the 4th high school and the 12th elementary school, the teachers and staff of Frederick County Public Schools will do everything they can to ensure our children receive the high-quality education I know our school system provides. However, I know that as a mom, my children deserve to be in a learning environment that does not prohibit those rich learning experiences. All of our children do. Our community deserves to have students who have been taught in an optimal learning environment. I have made the investment in my children's future by coming to Frederick County, as well as the daily investment I make in the students and community of Evendale. I'm asking for your support of the Frederick County Public Schools Capital Improvement Plan in order to benefit not just my children, but the Frederick County community.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carrie Ann Kite. I live in the Shawnee District. I have 2 children at Evendale and 1 child in preschool. I want to state my support for the capital improvement priorities set forth by the Frederick County School Board, including the 4th high school. I attended the January 4th meeting where the school board introduced the design of the proposed high school. Many people have already spoken up about crowding and need. I would like to address the design of the school since that is my educational background. I found the design to be exciting. It aligns directly with the recommendations set forth by the Department of Education. For example, this design enables teachers in varying disciplines to use the building as a learning tool. It makes use of flexible classroom design and allows for water reclamation. I also looked at the website of the architects, OWPR. Their design portfolio shows a large number of K-12 buildings. These also include Warren County's Skyline High School, which is highly regarded. These architects are experienced and qualified in this field. It is clear by their design that they are familiar with the recommendations set forth by the state, as well as functional, effective school design. I did not see excess when I saw their design for the 4th high school. I saw a thoughtful approach to an engaging learning environment. In the Frederick County 2036 vision, drafted on October 22nd and adopted on November 9th of 2016, the county lists state-of-the-art education as an important target area to achieve its vision. I quote, "Frederick County prides itself on highly regarded diverse educational opportunities for people in all stages of life. We leverage public and private resources to ensure state-of-the-art education. What makes our public school system great is the cooperative effort among citizens, school, and government. The design of facilities optimizes the learning environment for our students while employing the most environmentally conscious building practices. This new high school design fulfills this vision that has been put forward by your committees. The design is based on current educational goals set forth by our state Department of Education. The educational opportunities allowed by such design practices are exactly what we hope to see for our children. Real-life applications of concepts they learn will be available to them. This is what is meant by the building as a classroom. The design uses passive solar design elements. The building features water reclamation, which will conserve the county's water supply as more people are moving into the county. The architects were actively looking for energy efficiency and environmental conservation. They even took into account the preservation of wetlands on the property, which will actually assist classes like biology and environmental studies. I know the price tag associated with this high school is high. Technology is changing and it is costly. We cannot continue to compare this school to Millbrook, which was built at a different time with different standards that no longer fulfill the demands and recommendations by the state. We cannot shortchange our children with trailers or outdated school designs. They deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Craig Washner, Gainsborough District resident, 25-year employee at James Wood High School. My wife has been at James Wood for 18 years. We have 3 school-age children, so I'm here tonight to talk as a parent who will have at least one child in high school starting in 2018 all the way through 2030. And the thing that kind of disturbs me a little bit is the inaction up to this point on the part of the board as far as addressing the capital improvement plan and specifically long-term the Fourth High School. As mentioned in the public information meeting held by the school board last week, our high schools are currently at 103% capacity, and there seemed to be a vibe in the room that 103% wasn't that big of a deal. You're only talking about 3% over capacity. Well, when you put that in different terms, I'm from Pittsburgh with 3 rivers, and when you hit 103% capacity in the rivers, the fountain at Point State Park is underwater. You're filling your coffee cup in the morning, fill it 3% over, you've got a nice little spill on the countertop. Scotty's contacting Captain Kirk to tell him at 103% that the engines are overheating in the warp core. But, at 110%, then you've got a real problem. And that's where we're looking at right now, even 3 years down the line. If we were to start construction today for the Fourth High School in Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh's underwater, and you have millions of dollars of damage. Spill on the countertop is all of a sudden pouring onto the floor, or you have a warp core breach at 110%. All the problems that some of the previous speakers have mentioned as far as classroom overcrowding, reduction in individualized instruction. For me as athletic director, I see fewer and fewer of our kids getting opportunities because we just cracked 1,300 at James Wood High School. And the roster spots don't change for basketball. You only have 12 or 13 roster spots, and as you get more and more kids trying out for those roster spots, that's fewer opportunities that our children have. And quite honestly, I want that for my kids when they get to high school. First one is in a couple years. My youngest is just entering kindergarten next year, so 12 years down the line. And I understand the cost. $90 million sounds like a lot of money, but as noted last week, some of the Loudon schools, right now, new high school in Loudon, and trust me, I see it all the time as AD because I travel to all the schools, and they're pushing $120 million price tags. $90 million is a lot less than what they're spending, and quite honestly, some of the things were cut out of this Fourth High School to get that number down to where it was, including athletically. I think our school board has done a great job in doing that. So I know it looks elaborate, but you also have to think this school needs to be built to serve kids 50, 60, 70 years from now. When we're all dead and gone, we're going to have my kids and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren are probably going to be going to this Fourth High School. So although it looks elaborate and futuristic, I think you need to keep that in mind. So I would like to respectfully ask the board to consider holding a public hearing so that those of us that are for it, and quite honestly for those that are against, have the opportunity to have a public hearing and have our views heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Sawyer, and I'm Science Department Chair at Sharando High School. I also teach Earth Science, and I've been there for the past 17 years. For reference, this is my 38th year of teaching, and I've had the privilege of teaching in Frederick County for 24 years. I'm also the proud parent of a Sharando graduate. My husband and I are residents in the Opequon District since 1984. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the overcrowded conditions at Sharando High School and in support of the Fourth High School. I'd like to open by stating that the Virginia Standards of Accreditation, updated in 2013, state that science classes should have a maximum of 24 students. Currently at Sharando, there are 20 out of our 65 science sections that have over 24 students. That's 31% of our science classes, which are already considered to be overcrowded. Sharando High School was built in 1993 under the accreditation requirements in place at that time. The facility does not currently meet our needs. Right now, we do have 2 teachers in the science department, excuse me, that are teaching in non-lab classroom space. That means they're teaching in math classes. They do have to travel to other rooms to conduct labs. We also, because of overcrowding, have 2 additional teachers in the science department that are traveling on carts and have to move from room to room based on availability. I am one of those nomads, and I have been for 14 years. I move lab equipment and materials through busy hallways. I do not have a classroom to use as a tool for learning. I cannot set up labs, long-term projects, display of student work. I have to take down labs every class period and move them. The same Virginia standards of accreditation refer to required teaching and prep space. The standards state that in a classroom, there should be a minimum of 1,100 square feet in a classroom. Sharando's largest science classroom is 812 square feet. There's a greater discrepancy in the prep rooms. The standard states that we have 300 square feet of shared space for prep room. At Sharando, we have 160 square feet. So what does this all mean? Well, due to our high numbers, many classrooms have additional tables and desks added to them, and this presents a lot of issues in terms of instruction and overall student safety. The teacher's ability to move throughout the room to monitor student progress and safety during lab situations. It also impacts the ability to give individualized feedback. It could create dangerous situations when conducting labs, and there is less opportunity for hands-on labs. What does it mean to be over capacity? This is not just the number of bodies in a room. Let's talk about quality feedback. If a teacher has a class load of 125 students, as I do, and I spend 5 minutes to grade a test, a lab, a quiz, that equates to 625 minutes or over 10 hours on one assignment. Well, we know that there is more than one assignment. So overcrowding means that there is just not enough time to keep up with the required feedback that these students need. I'd like to close by stating that I think differentiated instruction is one of the most important services a teacher can provide. And large classrooms, well, we know that the classrooms have a wide range of student ability and motivation. In the larger classes, it's more difficult to reach each student individually. I'd love to see Frederick County support a much-needed 4th high school so that all of our students achieve the highest level of education possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chairman DeHaven, members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity to share comments tonight. My name is Joe Salyer. I reside in the Stonewall District, and my remarks this evening are in regards to the school division's CIP goals of proposing a 4th high school. Prior to 1950, 5 community high schools once served the students of Frederick County. And during those years, I expect the local governing bodies were faced with the decision of how to best keep up with the challenging trends in educating our youth and keeping pace with the needs of our society. History tells us that the changing trends were addressed by consolidating those 5 high schools into one, James Wood being that school. From the time James Wood opened 66 years ago, we are now being served by 3 high schools and meeting the needs of our students in Frederick County. For each new high school proposed, I expect local governing bodies continue to ask how to best keep up with the changing trends in educating our youth. Beginning in 1977, my work career involved serving the students as a Frederick County agricultural teacher for 13 years. The curriculum focused on production agriculture. Frederick County was recognized as a premier county in the state for its livestock, crops, and fruit production. My classroom was predominantly filled with students from farm-related backgrounds, seeking skills needed to support the family farm. Over the next decade, the demographics of farming in the farming community changed. Fewer students with farm backgrounds were enrolled in agriculture. The existence of the family farm was under pressure. Fields that once supported livestock and crops, they were being cultivated for housing and industry. The face of the agricultural community was changing, but the need for new, innovative agricultural enterprises were growing. Agricultural businesses and services demanded by local consumers, including landscape enterprises, small engine sales and services, and garden centers, to name a few. These trends were creating the need to retool the curriculums within the educational system in order to keep pace with a changing economy. I purposely use this analogy of agricultural education to illustrate change is inevitable. During my career, I personally witnessed a change in the educational needs of all students in all curriculums and required adjustments needed to keep up with the occupational trends demanded by our society. The educational needs required by our economy today far exceeds what was needed by our students 40 years ago. I also witnessed an enormous growth in our school enrollments. The 13,000 students enrolled today has more than doubled from 6,000 registered in 1977. I'd like to commend the local governing bodies from the past and the present for their visionary and futuristic thinking. Your focus has always been on continued improvement to the quality of life for our citizens. If history should repeat itself, I anticipate growth will continue, new occupational trends will surface, and the needs of our young people will change. I encourage you to support the educational needs of our youth and the need for a fourth high school. I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Bowden-Schatz. I'm Sharando Business Department Chair and also a parent of 2 Sharando students. I'm a resident of Frederick County in the Opequon District. I would like to focus on the challenges my colleagues and students face from day to day because of limited space and overcrowding. I currently have 3 teachers who utilize carts to move supplies from classroom to classroom outside of the department. Teachers transporting textbooks, graded papers, assignments for the day, attendance supplies, pens, pencils, calculators, and a laptop. All of this located on a cart which must be pushed through an already crowded hallway of students. There are many other teachers pushing carts throughout the school as well. We have English and history teachers separated from specialty areas because they are being housed in temporary trailers outside by the football field. How can teachers collaborate on lesson plans, discuss methods of teaching, and share classroom supplies such as textbooks? Another example of limited space is by our special education department. There are 16 teachers in one small office space of our school. As you walk through the department, teachers are trying to concentrate on planning. They're writing individual education plans for students who need extra support. They're making parent contacts because they have concerns about their student or their child. And in the meantime, there's a copier running in the middle of this. You look inside a small room that is used to be a storage closet, but now is home to the desk of 3 special ed teachers. I have many students who come to class and wait for the bell to ring and then ask to go to the bathroom because the lines to use them were way out of the doorway. Students missing important announcements, introduction of new material because the lines were too long during the changing of classes. Our career and technical labs, they were designed to hold 20 computer workstations. At this point, we have managed to squeeze 2 extra computers into the corners of the room. I feel pretty lucky that I'm not a work and family studies teacher or an ag teacher because having maxed enrollment of students cooking in kitchens and working on machinery. Students have the opportunity to schedule their own electives. However, we had to turn away almost 400 students that chose our CTE classes because of maxed class sizes and shortage of space. Those students were required to take an alternative choice or even electives that they didn't even want to take just because there was an open seat during that class period. Students saying, I didn't even sign up for the class, I was just placed here. What does this lead to? Students not being focused, not motivated, and then possible behavior issues because a student was placed in this class because there was an open seat. We need your support in providing a high-quality learning environment, meeting the needs of our students. The building of the 4th high school will give us this tool and space to accomplish this. Tonight, I strongly encourage you to support the public comment session on the building of the 4th Frederick County High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Jennifer Williams. I am from the Shawnee District. My husband and I are parents of 3 beautiful children. 2 are teenagers who came up the ranks of Armel Elementary, Admiral Byrd Middle School, and now Sharando High School. Our youngest is at Armel Elementary School. Being a parent and working for the Frederick County School System as a substitute teacher, I have been in all schools. I have seen all of the overcrowding that all schools have. It is my understanding that we are already $8 million into this project. I do not understand why things have been delayed and why things are not moving forward on the project of the new high school and the additions that Armel Elementary needs and that the new elementary school needs. When we moved here 8 years ago, we had the choice of where we wanted to live and where we wanted our children to have their education. We chose Frederick County because of the education, because of the staffing, because of the principals. It is because of that that also with over the building and the production that we have behind Cantor, on Warrior Drive with the Old Dominion subdivision, and now learning of the Lake Frederick not being a retirement community anymore, I ask you, where do you think these students are going to go when these families move? They're going to go to Armel Elementary, Admiral Byrd, and Sharando. Without that high school, which by in fact, my husband and I were asked a few years ago to be on that planning committee, we've heard nothing. No more movement, no more discussion. We are years behind in the making. We have development everywhere that you want to do and for this economy and for this county, but where do you expect the students to go? I have 2 students that are freshmen in high school at Sharando. They soon will go on to college. I want them to have the proper education. 2 of their teachers are in this room this evening. It is very hard for our students to get the proper learning because of the overcrowding. My daughter at elementary is in a room of 33 students for the last 3 years. Again, as a parent and as an employee, I cannot understand why you would not move forward with this. It is imperative for our students to be the future and to be someday sitting in your position with the education and the backing, and to once sit there and go, we give the approval. I am asking you to please move forward with this, to move forward with a public hearing, and to move forward with the capital improvement of the new high school and the new elementary school and the renovations that need to be done in Armel Elementary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Chairman and members of the board, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak. And my name is Jason Tresetter in the Shawnee District. I'm a taxpayer, parent, and teacher as well at Armel Elementary School. I've been there for 16 years. And I could talk to you about the overcrowding that I've seen there as a teacher before they built Evendale. I could talk to you about its effects on students, but you've heard a lot of that tonight. And I think that you're understanding that. But what I wanted to point out was I'm a little surprised about the lack of support, because I believe our capital improvement plan and I believe supporting a public hearing reflects the vision statement and the core values of this board. And the reason I say that is from my reading of the 2030 comprehensive plan put forward by this Board of Supervisors. And in that, some of the things that I read were that residential development in Frederick County is increasing by an average of about 3% per year. And that's something that's being encouraged by the county. When I look at programs like the Transfer of Development Rights program, I mean, these things are encouraging growth in our county, which is great. It's great for our community. But I also looked at some parts, and this is a direct quote from that 2030 plan put forth by the Board of Directors, is the county must ensure that land use policies are established to adequately direct and shape that growth, to guarantee that it is positive for the community and located in areas that are capable of accommodating that growth. And I believe having schools large enough is part of making sure that we can accommodate that growth. You know, another part that I read from that comprehensive plan was proactive planning efforts are essential in both the urban and rural areas to ensure that the county is able to deal with its future residential growth in a cost-effective and attractive manner. And when I think about the choices that we have before us now, purchasing or leasing portable units and trailers, you know, that doesn't fit with the plan that you guys have put forward versus investing in our actual infrastructure in these schools. You know, and residential development is probably the most preventable reason that schools become overcrowded, because we know it's going to happen. That's part of the plan. You know, and those overcrowded schools are simply a result of poorly managed growth. And that's not one of the reasons that I stay and I live in Frederick County, because I don't believe that that's how our Board of Supervisors in our county handles it. And that's why I was just so surprised with the hesitancy to move forward with the capital improvement plan, because I honestly believe that it fits in with the core values of our county and our board. And I would like you to reconsider these projects in our public hearing. And thanks again for allowing me the time to come up and speak before you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Go ahead. Ladies first.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Fout, and I am a resident in the Opequon District. I'm a product of Frederick County Public Schools and have 4 children, 2 of which have graduated and 2 of which are still enrolled in Frederick County. I have also been a teacher and administrator for 21 years in Frederick County with experience at Jameswood High School and Millbrook. As a parent of a daughter who attends Middletown and another daughter who attends Ayler, I ask that you please consider our division, providing our division with a 4th high school. While my children live in the Sharando zone and will likely attend Sharando, I see benefits of a 4th high school for my children and other students. The idea of my daughters attending the old Frederick County Middle School during any part of their high school experience is unacceptable. In addition to the primary concern of losing instructional time due to travel, the idea of separating students from their peers in another facility affects school pride and a sense of belonging, which is critical to the high school experience. As some members of our community have suggested the addition of modular units, I beg of you to not consider this as an option. I work in a building with modular units, and my daughter attends school with modular units. Safety is a huge concern. We must leave our building open throughout the day so students may enter and exit through this location. This leaves our building vulnerable for intruders to enter. I recall an incident when I taught in a modular unit at Jameswood High School. I had a parent approach the modular units and physically confront her daughter at the change of classes. If the parent would not have had easy access, the incident would not have occurred. Adding on to our existing schools is an option. However, I do bring to your attention that Jameswood High School is in need of space renovation. After 30-plus years in existence, Jameswood has become outdated. We have teachers teaching out of closets. We store our textbooks backstage of our auditorium. And we have maximized our classroom space, which limits our small groups required for our students. The innovative plan for this 4th high school would be ideal for teachers and for students. Teaching today is not like it was in 1966, nor in 1996 when I began my career. We are responsible for teaching all students, and let me assure you that all students are different, from their learning styles to their socioeconomic backgrounds. Imagine a student taking Algebra 1 whose parents are non-supportive of their child. This student also struggles with attention deficit disorder and doesn't even know where her next meal will come from. Did I mention that she strongly dislikes math and she's never done well in the subject matter? Imagine a class of 28 students, and she is just one of many. Because she doesn't learn the same way as her peers, she often needs a small group along with about 8 other students in the class with similar struggles. When I teach this class, I need the space. I need to organize my students in strategic groups based on their learning styles and needs. A classroom where students sit in desks and rows with no longer addresses the 21st century learning needs. I need my students to collaborate with their peers, think critically, and be creative. I need the space that accommodates the needs of my students in order to simulate skills needed today. Please help Frederick County take one step closer in becoming a premier school division so that we can better support the needs of our youth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jim McConnell. I live in the Shawnee District. I am a third grade teacher at Armel Elementary School. And this evening, bear with me for a second here, I was told my wife I was going to attend this meeting, and she says, what are you going to say to them? And I was like, I don't know. On the car ride over, the guy who was up here previously, what are you going to say? And I said, I don't know. And then I saw Mike Ruddy sitting over here. And I taught Mike's oldest daughter my very first year of teaching. And I said, I know what I'm going to talk about. The kids. Because that's all what this comes back to, are the students. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with anyone else working in the county. Schools are for kids. And I want to specifically talk about, and the lady prior to this mentioned, we have a growing number of students. It's not a small pocket anymore. It's a growing number of students with attention issues. And we really can't explain why. Even the medical world can't explain why. And when we have these class sizes that, are going up to 28, 29, 30-plus students, these students, this is a struggle for them day in and day out. And some of these students, and I think of one in particular, they are brilliant, many of them. And they have these attention issues, and they walk into that classroom and they're already behind because of those attention issues. They walk in and, everything is distracting to them. And the larger class sizes we get and the more kids we get in these classes, that is a bigger challenge for them. And that gives them more distractions. And I know one particular student, as he goes to school every day, and he loves school, and he goes every day with a very positive attitude, very positive mind. But the minute he gets into school, he tells me all the time how distracted he becomes. And he can't remember what, his teachers are telling him. He can't remember what his homework is that night. He can't remember, sometimes what he did that day. And when I talk to him more and find out, why, he tells me, well, there's so many things going on in the classroom with so many classmates that it's hard for me to pay attention to what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know this because this child is my oldest son. He's a fourth grader at Armel, and he does have ADHD. And as a parent, it is very hard to see your child go through that with a large class size. And we work with him and, help him with coping skills for this. But, I ask you to consider these capital improvement projects for our school system so that we can focus on all the students, like we do every day as we walk into our classrooms and, focus on each and every student that we teach. I want you to think about every kid, not just, the athletes, not just the lower level students, all 13,000 of them, 13,000 plus. Think about all of them and make an investment for them that will benefit them in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Alan Morrison. I'm from the Gainsborough District. Many of you were at the meeting last Wednesday, so we're not going to repeat any of that, but we're going to move on from that. It is a duty of this board and of the citizens of the county to provide an education for our students. But it also implies a responsibility. a responsibility to do it right, do it well, to do it efficiently. The major misconception is that this board controls how that money is spent, and that's not true. The school board determines how the money is spent. They simply come to you with proposals for you to provide the money or a portion whatsoever. So when teachers complain about not getting a pay increase, it's not this board that denies it, it's the school board that makes that priority decision. So when the school board decides to build the Crystal Cathedral complete with jumbotrons, shades of Orwell's 1984, this is a priority decision that is being made by the school board and not this board. One speaker last week and at least two tonight have brought up one major issue that we continually are battling in this county: high rates of residential growth. Taxes from residences will not pay the services that those houses require. So the more houses we build, the faster we put ourselves into this same situation year after year or every other year or every third year, where we are being asked to come up with a large sum of money to maintain the capacities that we need. And we're falling behind, and there's no question about it. But that's back to the word responsibility. What is the best way to responsibly do that? I think that's a word that's not really used much in language today. One other issue that's come up tonight several times has been security, providing for the security of our children. And it cannot be a shock to any of us when we have cast out of our schools civility, morality, and spiritual direction. When we omit those things, matter of fact, prohibit those things, we will not be able to have security regardless of the facilities we put in place. So again, my concern, let's not Fairfax Frederick, because that's certainly the path that we are on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Joy Kirk. I'm the president of the Frederick County Education Association and a resident of the Back Creek District. I didn't plan on speaking this evening, but I do just want to add a few comments to what you've heard from many of my colleagues and some of the parents who are in the room. I've been teaching in Frederick County Public Schools for 22 years. I am the proud bonus mother, AKA stepmother, of 3 James Wood High School graduates who are all now college graduates and who are all now continuing to get additional degrees without my funding. We have an excellent school system. We want to continue to have an excellent school system for all the children, those who we currently have in our schools and those who we know will move into the houses and the developments that are being built. We've heard some of the problems of overcrowding, but there are some that haven't been mentioned, and I just want to bring those to light. We can keep putting bodies into schools by putting in additions or modulars, but the cafeteria is only so big. So what's too early for lunch? Is 10 o'clock too early? Is that still breakfast? What's too late for lunch when school ends at 2:25? Are we still pushing kids through the lunch line at 1:30? And when did they have breakfast? The halls aren't getting any wider, but yet all of those students, even if we put a modular unit or an addition, they all still have to move through those halls to get to where they need to go. There can only be so much body jostling before somebody's having a bad day and they get bumped and they react incorrectly, because kids are people, and we know adults can sometimes act inappropriately over a slight little irritation or provocation. So I just ask you to think about all the things that have to be taken into consideration. You know, I heard somebody say at one of the meetings, you know, we've never built a school without having children. And I think that's true. We've never built a school in Frederick County that we opened and it was empty, and I believe I heard that in this room. So we're already at over 100%. You don't want to be at 100% even. You want to be at 85, 80, 90, because you want to have room. You want to have space so that you can have those individual learning scenarios, so that we can use our ESPs to support our learning and they can help our students. So I just ask you to look at all of the scenarios and to ask all of the questions and to remember our students count. And as educators, we make a difference, and we want to continue to have that difference be as large an impact as possible in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mrs. Garten. I'm David Savine, Superintendent of Frederick County Public Schools, also a resident of the Shawnee District. I want to take a moment to ask that you reconsider your decision to take no action on the school board's request to appropriate the funds needed to proceed with the top 3 priorities of the 2018-2023 Capital Improvement Plan. Those specific areas or those specific projects include the 4th high school, the addition and renovation of Armour Elementary School, and the 12th elementary school located at Snowden Bridge. Each of these projects is critical to helping us address current overcrowding, future enrollment growth, and to provide space needed to facilitate the engaging instruction that is most effective in preparing students for the future. As you're aware, we have an outstanding record of projecting enrollment growth. Based on a very conservative annual growth rate at just 1.18%, the number of students served by the schools will increase from 13,200 to 15,000 students in 10 years. As residential development continues throughout our county in places like Lake Frederick and Snowden Bridge, we need to focus on preparing for enrollment growth that's coming by completing the new high schools, the new high school, as well as the elementary school and the Armour addition and renovation. We must also develop plans to address the other projects on the CIP, which include significant renovations at some of our older facilities, such as Ayler Middle School and James Wood High School. Many of these projects have been on the CIP for more than a decade, with the need to get them completed growing each year. Like you, the school board and I are very conscious of the costs these projects include. Other options have certainly been considered, but they are indeed less favorable and won't address the long-term needs of our growing community. Delaying our top 3 priorities further will add millions of dollars to the cost and doing nothing to provide students with the learning environments they need in order to be successful. I, along with the school board, remain committed to working with you collaboratively to move forward with these projects. We have an excellent record of completing projects on time, within budget, that are cost-effective, energy efficient, and designed to best serve our community. Since 2006 alone, we have worked together to successfully build and open 4 new schools and a transportation center. The school board and I remain available and willing to answer any questions you may have. We want to continue our discussions with you on how we can best address growth that we're experiencing while serving our students, our staff, and our county taxpayers well. Once again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mrs. Garten, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Stein. Anyone else? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Name's Mike Klein from the Gainesboro District. At the last meeting, closing comments, there were some comments made in reference to proffers and how the law is changing, and that how this board may have to work on the state level to get impact fees to pay for schools. I don't have a problem with that issue, or that comment, other than the fact Frederick County has to pay more than schools. And we need to keep that in the back of our mind, because there's other facilities that we have to have in Frederick County other than just schools. Now, I don't have kids in school. I don't follow the school system. I have learned more tonight from listening to the comments here than I have in previous, simply because I don't follow the system. But we need to be careful on what we're spending, because we have other things we have to pay for. And that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone? Last call. All right, well, a couple of comments from me, and I'm sure others would like to comment as well. You can absolutely depend on the fact that this board is committed to continuing to work with your school board and other folks in the community to try to find a path. We've been committed to the work that you do and tried to be supportive of that. We're very pleased and very proud of the work you do and appreciate very much what you do to bring our community forward every day. We have a role here that we have to fulfill as well, but we are committed to continuing to work together. And when we will do that, and I am confident that we will find a path. But I don't suspect that it's going to get a lot easier. But we very much appreciate your comments, appreciate you taking time away from your families and coming out to share your thoughts with us. It's important, and we appreciate it. So this is board comment time. Who wants to comment? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you for your comments. Certainly took them to heart. I know you generally, the comments that were made came from the heart, and you're looking out for our students, and that's a great thing. I received a lot of emails, and I haven't replied to about 2. I think most of the folks are in the room, so I'll apologize here and say I will get back to you. I've been extremely busy. Part of that time has been devoted with the chairman and myself and trying to find some path where we can work together. It's not an easy task, and it takes a lot of time. So again, I just would like to comment on Mr. DeHaven's comments, and that is that we're committed to that, and we're committed to finding a path to do that. And I know other members of the board are the same. We're working very hard to find a way to do it. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and thank you for your comments.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Dunn.
For all those that came and spoke, thank you. I'll just tell you my concerns as we go forward. I've gotten emails, as have others. I appreciate what Dr. Savine has said. So this is really just an opportunity just to chat. The comments that have been made are valid comments, and I respect those comments. My concern is on the cost. And in all the comments that have been made, there's been no discussion on cost. Last week, I did some initial research, and in 2014, 2 years ago, the average national cost of a new high school was approximately $50 million. The top 25% was $80 million. Those figures are significantly lower than the $91 million that has been quoted. And the same thing went for an elementary school, which I don't have off the top of my head here. In the next 5 years, this county is expected to have the following: the 123.8, I'll round that to $124 million for the 3 items that the school board has laid out. There's another approximately $30 million, and I'll be glad to defer to either Dr. Lamanna or Dr. Savine if my number is incorrect. But $30 million for Armel and Bass Hoover on repairs there, and Dr. Savine made one of the comments. So that's another 30. So that's now up to $154 million. The county has a new courthouse that likely will have to come to play in some point in time in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I've been told that if a judge says that I need a new county courthouse, it is not negotiable. It has to occur. And that cost is either $40 or $50 million. And then there's discussion on the CIP of a new joint high or administration building. And that's another $40 to $50 million. So the combined total is $90 million. If you add those up, I think you have someplace in the neighborhood of $244 million. The tax increase to support that is someplace in the neighborhood of 50 to 75% increase on the real estate taxes. The $123.8 million is approximately a 31% tax increase. My question to the Board of Education is the $91 million the only option you have? If I said to you, I can give you $50 million, what happens? See, I have no ability to know what you get for $90 million. I don't have an ability to know if you'll only get 50, which is the national average. What do you lose? And so my struggle is understanding the cost. If I said to you, I can sell you a car, and it costs $30,000, most of you in this room have an idea of what a $30,000 car costs. If I said that car would cost $300,000, I think most of you are thinking Lamborghini. But if you did not know what a car was, then $30,000 or $300,000 is irrelevant. And so my problem, as I struggle with this, is what's the value that you're getting for the items stated. We're going to go forward on this. I'll work with you. As I said last week at your Board of Education meeting, I came there specifically to let you know that. But I don't have an answer today, and that's the struggle I have. And just for the rest of you to know, one of the proposals that I'm considering is the following. And some of you will probably not like this, but at least have the courtesy to listen. And that is that if the county delayed this for 5 years, the county debt goes down by approximately $12 million per year. In 5 years, that's $60 million. If this Board of Supervisors put together and saved another $5 million a year, or $8 million a year in 5 years, that's $40 million. Between those two figures, that's $100 million that could be saved over a 5-year time frame. If the county then went forward with the projects that are being laid out here, that $124 million figure would be approximately $135 million. And I'm probably more comfortable on putting a $100 million down payment and taking out a loan for $35 million, which is what the budget debt would be, even though the price has gone up. And the taxpayers would have to know that their taxes would also go up to cover that, than I am today on a $124 million project today. So that's the struggle that I'm having. I'll be glad to talk to anybody in this room on that. If there's something wrong with my thinking process, I'll be glad to listen to you. I used to be a school teacher. I've taught school with 30 kids in a classroom. It's doable. Some of you have made comments about how things have changed. If you want to talk to me afterwards, I will be glad to listen. So I'm open to that. We as a community need to work together, and I fully understand that. If we go forward with this and there's a tax increase, and there likely would have to be a tax increase to citizens, those people take a 50% tax increase. So if you're paying $1,400 approximately for a real estate tax, that's going to go up about to $700 or more per year for the next 20 years, because that's the time for a bond, 20-year time frame. For you that are teachers, are you willing to go to your next door neighbor and say, you should take a price, you should pay that $700 more a year in taxes because it's so important? And if the community itself says, we think that we agree with you, this becomes a done deal. But there are many that say that's a very steep price to pay for a very expensive school system. So that's the balance that occurs. By the same token, last year, I'll make the comment this year, if you're a teacher and you live in this county, you're going to have a tax increase and you will pay that. But unlike those in the private sector, those in the public sector then will come back and say, we'd like to have a pay raise. And if I were a teacher, I would do the same thing. But in the private sector, if there's a tax increase, those people in the private sector will not be able to go to their employer and say, Frederick County gave me a tax increase, would you please raise my taxes? That's going to occur only if the company grows. So going forward, this community, the growth in this community is going to pay the taxes. Residents likely are going to have to pay some taxes down the road. I'm just struggling right now with the bill that's coming today, and I'm going to advocate trying to save some money, postpone this for the reasons that I stated. Thank you for your time. If you disagree with me, feel free to chat, and if any of you want to get together afterwards, I'll be glad to do so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I know I'm not a member of the board, but could I
You're welcome.
share something that was posted on the governor's website pertinent to what you said earlier?
Please.
Mr. DeHaven mentioned that Mr. Fisher is in Richmond for Governor McAuliffe's State of the Commonwealth address, and he is incorporated in his comments tonight an announcement specific to Frederick County that we've not been able to release until the governor releases it. So I'm just going to read you this very short couple of sentences. Governor Terry McAuliffe this evening announced during his State of the Commonwealth address that Navy Federal Credit Union will invest $100 million to expand its Winchester Operations Center in Frederick County. The project will nearly double Navy Federal's workforce employee count and physical square footage in Frederick County. Virginia successfully competed for this project, which will create 1,400 new jobs. So that's a really good news announcement for Frederick County.
Thank you. Yes, we're very excited. And it's nice that we can finally talk about it. Any other comments from anyone? Supervisor?
Move adjourn.
Second? Second. Motion is second. All those in favor, aye. 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 Opposed, no. We'll stand adjourned. We thank you again for your participation.
I think I'm hanging up.